comments where everyone is a little bit unclear of what we are dealing with.
No, I was just saying that was about the previous classes. Actually, I find the last couple ones to be more
focused.
Yeah, I'm more focused, but I've been present, so it could be.
Oh, that's. How did you realize that?
Well, you actually suggested that I come less often, so I don't think you're really the one to be, claiming any great victories at this point.
Are we dialed in?
No, we don't dialed in. Sorry. Well, I think we are dialed in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I do that. We are towards the bottom of page Ches in the pamphlets. Everybody has a pamphlet, right? Yeah. We'll learn one more line, and then we'll discuss the principle that we are now involved in. The principle that the Rebbe says at the bottom is that the koiches come forth in Hagbola v'hischalkus, in a definitive manner. V'hischalkus means that besides that the koiches are in each individual koiches, each koyach contains ingredients. You can sort of say break it down into components and so forth components. A sechel, an oir sechel can be. Yes, it's an oil sechel. It's a perfect concept. When you think into it, you can break it down and say, this is because of this, is because of this. Here is this it contains. Here is what's really influencing it, and so forth. That has helped us. Where does that come from? Please understand again. Okay, let me just finish this line as I said, and then we'll discuss what is the challenge over here.
Which line are we on?
We are on the line. Actually, it's okay. It's 5 lines from the beginning of that ois dalet. The line begins ha'oir va'agilu ha'oir mugbo. The oir and the gilu in the sechel, oir sechel. The principle of oir we have already introduced, and of course we will talk about it more, but we are not strange to the experience of oil. And when we explain oil, we explain it also using the oil that we experience, namely the sunlight. Sunlight illuminates and shows us not the objects, shows us the entire context. And we see the object due to that context, not object by object. In other words, each object has a correct place. It is where it belongs, not it is where it is. That's a phenomenal thing. This is oir. Why does it belong? Because there is a reality to its existence. If it's not real, it doesn't belong any place. So this oil and G-dly hu oir mugbal. In sechel, it is a limited oir. And a few more words. Shegam oir sechel shabo b'hafshot, where even the oir sechel that comes and is manifest b'hafshota. B'hafshota means totally devoid of form. It's very mufshat. Just a plain, pure concept, devoid of form. Even oir seichel sheba b'hafshota, she'eina nitvas kol kach ba'oisis, which means that it cannot be grasped and defined and formed and placed in oisius, in letters. If you have a definitive object, you can describe it. Its size, its height, its density, and so forth. Its weight, its function. How is it made? What makes it to the legs stay attached to the keep attached to the birds and so forth? This is voices. And how do you use it? This is has a definitive function, a definitive presence, and it can be fully described what it is about. Oir seichel sheba b'hafshota she'eina nitvas kol kach ba'oisis, that is not nitvas, that cannot be grasped and put into letters. And it says kol kach. Kol kach means to say, if this is seichel, then by definition there are oisies. But the oisies themselves are not really toifus as seichel. However, the oisies are very subtle oisies. For example, there's a big difference by saying a table is taller than a chair. Than saying a table is 10 inches taller than a chair. You say taller than a chair, yes, but it's not. You're not really defining it. But something definitive, you say it's 10 inches higher than a chair. You know why? Because here you have to be able to put your knees under the table. Whatever, it's very, very clear and definite. Every seichel has oisius. But the oisius are almost oisius, it's a hinting oisius, it's pointing to. It does not really describe it. Because you are a bar seichel, and you know what I'm talking about, that's how we can communicate. So it says, even oir seichel, sheba b'hafshota, that comes with hafshota, and this we'll discuss, harei hu b'bchinas oir mugbal. It is nonetheless, it has the quality of oir mugbal, of a finite and limited oir. V'zehu ha'hagbala be'etzem mitziyusay, which represents the hagbala, the boundary, be'etzem mitziyusay, in its very essence. Okay. And we have to stop here and reflect. Is this really a shocking statement? That the oir seichel is mugbal? We ought to reflect. What is it we're talking about? When I study history, is there anything mysterious about it? Anything that cannot be put into words? Here he's saying that even Oyer Seichel Hababa have shorted that cannot be needed to say is even that Seichel has a Hagbola. It's Hagbola Be'etzem it's a user. The whole inyan of Seichel as we know it, and slowly we're getting to know a different type of Seichel. But Seichel as we know it, as we experience it, from a worldly Seichel, this whole thing doesn't make any sense.
Is it in line with the correct understanding of seichel to also come from the perspective of saying, at very least, the muskel is limited. I mean, a muskel. So to say that the seichel, that the seichel comes back bala, seems to be very much in line with the fact that it's if the muskel isn't mugbal, so then it's not an inyan in seichel. I mean, it's true, but it's not true on the level of seichel. It's true for a different reason.
Are you answering my question, or you're enhancing it?
I think I'm enhancing it, but
my question is not really a valid question. My question is a statement that we don't know what we're talking about.
Well, I think that was obvious by my question.
Okay, but I'd like that type of presentation. When the Rebbe talks about seichel, and I don't begin to see what baffles him. What's the whole thing about? It's a wonderful opportunity to say, what is the Rebbe talking about? Do I know what seichel is from the Rebbe's perspective? I ought to know. I want to know.
Actually, you answered this question 2 days ago.
5 days ago, 17 days ago.
Feels like the only thing he ever talks about.
And the most important thing to me, to answer the question, is insignificant unless we relate to the answer. Unless we realize, yes, I'm not a big bar seichel, but I do have seichel. Sure.
What do we miss? I mean, this understanding the answer and the idea is above me. I just want to know, what are we missing? What are we aiming for here? So I don't even understand what. I don't understand what we're missing, what we have, to even know what we don't have. So what are we aiming at here?
We're trying to learn the minor. We're trying to let the Rebbe teach us what we're supposed to know. And we don't begin to understand what he's saying. How's that for an answer?
And that was also the specific point of what we're missing right now too, not the specific Indian that we're speaking about as well right now. That was...
As an example, to turn any page, and we will find something that we don't know what the Rebbe is talking about. But we want to know. Your question is implying a totally different point. The book is closed. I'll open the book. Why am I opening the book?
To learn.
Why are you wanting to learn for? That's your question. What are we trying to find out?
Are we like ready to call it a night then? We have enough for a minute.
Thank you. And it's not out of whack because in fact Chassidus in general, that's one of, now that we got into this, Chassidus is speaking from a neshamah perspective, not from a goof perspective. The goof to us is something which is real, which we relate to. The neshamah is something which we are told about, and many of us never thought about what do you mean by neshamah. The whole Torah is also from a neshamah perspective, but Chassidus is totally based on the sechel coming from the neshamah. The example, the illustration, the very simple illustration that we said today, last couple of days. If you walk and you walk into a table, you know there's a table there. There is some obstruction there. And you're going to try to walk around it. Why? Because physically you can't walk through it. That is something which makes perfect good sense to you. But if you have, the room is lit up, and you are going to walk around the table, and around the chair, around everything, straight around. There too, you could say, I'm walking around so I wouldn't stumble onto the table, because the table won't let me go through. But that's not what really happens in human thought. This is what we call an idiot. A human being, when he comes into a room and he sees tables and chairs, he walks around them not because he wants to avoid being, faltering into the table. Right? Why does he walk around? Help me out. Help us out.
No, this one is too easy to get wrong.
That's what I mean.
It's too easy to get wrong. I'm not touching it. There's a trap.
Okay. Okay. Why does he walk around? He walks around because he sees this is the right way to do things. The table is not in my way. Anything in my way means, by my perception, it should be there, and it's interfering with my walk. The table is not my way at all. On the contrary. If I came into the room is empty, I couldn't understand what's going on. We're getting some sense of what we're talking about. This is sechel. There's some kind of sense of reality. It's there, like we say all the time, it's there because it belongs there. There's a statement by its being there. And I would not want it any different. I walk around it because I don't want to disturb the reality. I want to participate in it. If I walk and I start moving all the chairs around away so that I can pass by, as I said, that's idiotic. These chairs are not in your way. This is sechel and its minimum, and its minimal state, but seichel. There's nothing, there's no physical force in it. It's not imperative. Yes, you could push your chest away, but you will not push your chest away. Not out of respect of the chairs, but out of respect of the idea of what's going on. Do I have you all with me? Do you understand? This is seichel. This is a neshamah influence. This is not a body influence. Without seichel, I couldn't care less what the chairs are. I want to sit down. Poof. I'm tired. My feet are tired. Why want to sit down? I will have to go through and think, what is the chair doing over here? Do we get the point? It's not a point. This is us. This is what I'm trying to make a point. This is us. This is a godly gift to us. Believe me, there is not an animal in the world that can relate to this union. Not an animal in the world. Not even a monkey. Shocking, right?
Dolphins.
Pardon me, huh?
Dolphins.
Huh?
Dolphins.
A dolphin.
Save the planet.
So, what bothers you, Rabbi, is the Rebbe's question, how come this thing is mugbal betzim tzilusim?
No,
Or I'm going back to things.
We got into this. We have to slowly get into this. You understand? You understand your question, and you understand the explanation where you're coming from. You do not know why you're coming to this from your bodily experiences, but you do know, whether consciously or not consciously, why you're coming in this from your neshamah perspective, from your sechel perspective. You follow what I'm saying? You sure? Can you put me a cup? So we sit down to learn. So we open this book and want to learn because we want to know. Thank you very much. I want to learn. We want to not question of knowing, the question of being, thinking and learning at the human level, at the seichel level, on the neshamah level ultimately. From our perspective, as Yidden, we want to think and know from a godly level, because that's what we're here in the world for. Here in the world we are to know God and to fulfill His mission. And only the neshamah knows that. Only the sechel and neshamah can relate to that. The goof can have no clue. So I just want to know before I try one. I'm asking questions. Is it clear? Do we understand what we just now said? If this is clear, we go to the next step. The next step is, be clear we have seichel. phenomenal thing. As I said, something that only we have. We can't imagine an animal having it at all. We can't even imagine ourselves having it. Forget about animals. When we realize what kind of fine insight we can have, we're shocked. Wow, where does that come from? Where does it come from? It comes from our neshamah. Which means our neshamah is infinitely above that. Our neshamah relates only to the truth of things. We're not going to go study the neshamah at this moment. But at the lowest level, at the koyach level, even on our level of koyach, there is that koyach, that kind of sechel. And it's real. Excuse me.
What was this last piece about koyach and it's real?
The neshamah is, we have no inkling what the neshamah is. But we see that the neshamah, as it manifests itself in the group, at the lowest level of manifestation, at the koyach level, it has that quality, that neshamah quality, even on the koyach level. There are many, much higher manifestations of the neshamah than the koyach, such as Ayin and rotzing, that we speak of many times about. Now that we have come to this clarification, so to speak, we know what we're talking about. To whatever extent we understand, to whatever extent we relate to it, but we see, yes, it's real. Now, the Rebbe is telling us that we should understand that sechel is a koyach, a very high and fine koyach, as we said before, phenomenally fine insight, but it does not compare to rotzing. And he says, how are we going to distinguish rotzing from sechel? How do we distinguish rotzing from sechel? To us, this question itself is a kind of out of kilter. Rotzing and sechel are completely different qualities. Again, from our experience, rotzing and sechel are totally different realms. And yet, the Rebbe finds it necessary to distinguish between rotzing and sechel. And we begin to think, why is the Rebbe engaged in this? It's so obvious. They're two different realms. And as we are learning from Rebbe, as we are thinking about it, we realize that we have to understand this from both angles, from the rotzing angle and from the sechel angle. From the sechel angle, we already pointed out that we should know That the sechel is not what we think sechel is. Sechel is not just to understand the physical object, physical phenomenon. How big is this table? Wow, I can measure the table. I can estimate its size. Oh, wow, ingenious. That's not what sechel is about. As we pointed out before. So this is what they say. Sechel is a koyach, but a very fine koyach. It's a ruchnisike koyach. To the point where there is a sechel that is b'hafshota, and you can't even define it in noises. It's a sechel that you think and you realize. You can't even define the noises. A sechel that you can't define in noises. Where does it come from? It's not from my experience. My experience, if I hit my hand on the table, I can describe perfectly what happened and what it feels like. So if I have seichel, if I have shota, that you can't define an atheist, what does that mean? Okay, do I have you clear with me? I don't want to lose you, because I'm stepping off a little bit. And I want to explain the following. Anything that I acquire by a process. I'm here and I got here. I got here by a process. I made an X number of steps and I got here. Anything that I acquire cannot be mufshet from Moises. I can describe how I acquire it. Is that clear? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Is that related to sechel ratzon parallel?
Sorry?
Is that related to the sechel ratzon parallel?
No, I'm talking about, you're saying that's not the, I'm coming to, right now we're talking about the words, seichel mufshet. And this is called by saying, what kind of seichel is this? If it's a seichel that I got through a process, I was able to teach me, to prove to me a certain point, that cannot be a seichel without oasis. I've gotten it through these steps.
I would think though that here in this context of Shata means where, for instance, you start off with a mashal, and from that mashal, you strip down the gashmias and all of the tools which helped you kind of chop that kernel, that emes, and ultimately you get to have shata where you have actually the emes of the idea. Not, you don't know it through the mashal, you don't know it through the structure, you know it through the truth of it. And at that point, it still has ACAs, but it's very amorphous because it's Be'av Shata. Not so many. And transversely, I'll say every seichel begins in a state of Shata. In Chachma, there's no.
So here is the place for my question. I know what you're saying. You're just ahead of us. Here's the point of my question. What is the faculty via which I can relate to that which is mafshot?
Seichel.
Where does it come from? If seichel is the result of my experience, I can be mafshot.
It's not, seichel is not the result of your experience.
That's what I'm shooting at. what I said. Anything that you acquire, which means you've gotten to there through some kind of a process, cannot be hafshot b'tar races.
Yeah, no, I said, yeah. I mean, I think this is we've
Gone through it before.
This sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, I mean, no, but the whole
I'm glad.
the whole experience of the seichel when it's not the shata, that's what's foreign to seichel. That's the point where we should kind of be shocked that it makes any sense.
Okay, fine. I just want to include everybody. Do you understand? So if the seichel boba hafshotim, what is that? What's that alert us to? I want everyone to recognize it, to whatever extent we recognize it. And there's a seichel, that seichel is not a developed, like you develop your muscle, your arm muscle. Even though seichel does, you have to learn a lot to develop the seichel. But what takes place in the development of seichel? How come seichel can be developed? You don't develop seichel. You reveal the seichel by laboring in seichel. You're refining your brain so that the brain becomes more of a keli for the oil haseichel from the nefesh, koy haseichel from the nefesh. And this is how you develop, you reveal it. And this is the pshat that you are developing your seichel. But the seichel per se, even though we experience it in our brain, in our physical brain, that seichel itself is not physical. There's nothing in the seichel that forces the brain to understand it. Just like the table forces the hand to feel it. You follow what I'm saying?
Can you repeat just last thing what you said? There is nothing in the brain.
In the seichel, there's no tangibility in the seichel that forces the physical brain to understand it. The brain is the keli for the seichel because it's sensitive to the seichel, not because it is being superimposed on it. Just as, okay, everybody with me? I don't want to. Nobody's with me here.
The brain absorbed the seichel, or the brain revealed the seichel?
The seichel reveals itself in the brain because the brain is capable of accepting it. Seichel reveals itself because the nefesh sends it out. But if the brain were not a receptacle for it, the nefesh couldn't send it. Too soon. To illustrate this point, that the brain is sensitive to the seichel, we've used this example, this illustration many times. Actually, this table as it is not as clear a demonstration as one time when we had a real fine plastic on the table. You press your hand across the table, and it's perfectly smooth to the point where there is nothing that obstructs your movement. Zero. And yet you feel it. How do you feel You understand the question? You say doesn't understand the question. You do understand the question? Oh, no.
You should actually do it. Experiment.
Silky, slippery stuff.
Why does it make you feel it? In other words, if you move this hand around, I feel it because there are bumps and certain forms to it. There's no form to it at all. How do you feel?
Because there's a nut or a form.
So then,
A nut is a nut. Very good.
I'm sorry,
Because there is a nut of a form.
there's no form. You feel it because your hand is sensitive to it. Because with your foot you would not feel it. And in the hand itself you will not feel it with the back of the hand. You feel it only only fine fingers feel it. When your fingers become coarse, if you were a shoemaker or a carpenter, you probably would lose that sensitivity. It's a sensitivity that you have because your finger's alive. It's a life element in the finger that gives you opportunity to feel it. It's not even the physical thing. This is an illustration. Doesn't compare to sechel. It's an illustration to the how sechel is felt in the brain. This is what we learned in this mimer, several weeks ago or several months ago, that the choimer hamoyach is sensitive to oir hasechel, to the oir hasechel, not the experience of sechel, not the influence of sechel, the oir hasechel, the choimer hamoyach. The sechel, it could be all kinds of sechel. Just now you had a demonstration of what sechel is. You look and say, there's some kind of reality over here. It has no bearing on me at all. But I'm going to be respectful of it. I cannot explain why. You understand? This is something which is an oir ha-nefesh that is sensed in the physical body, in the brain. But essentially it's nefesh. Body has no connection to this kind of a truth, to a truth that doesn't affect it. It doesn't come through its own experience. Seeing the reality of a room with people is not affected by gashmis. The body cannot relate to it. But we do see it. We do relate to it. Because we have a nefesh, and the nefesh does relate, does know of the truth that is not physically effective and physically based. What we always call the human reality. You have to understand, human reality is a very fine reality, but then there's much higher than there's a godly reality. But just this demonstration itself is sufficient to see that this is the neshamah revealing itself in the body. And in the neshamah to be revealed in the body has to be just plain sensitive, because the neshamah is not going to force it, just like light doesn't force its presence on the gashmis. He has to be sensitive to it. That's what we learned the whole time, that the choyvar hamoyach is that refined, and it is sensitive to the oir hanefesh, the oir hanefesh, the oir haseichel. So coming back in line to what we're discussing.
So that the brain is less bodily oriented than any other ego.
Correct.
Was that a point that you were making?
This was not. This was used to bring out the point which I want to make. This is not. Yes, I understand. This is not what we were after, but I use that to show that sechel is a koyach hanefesh. And if sechel is a koyach hanefesh, and rotzen is a koyach hanefesh, sechel is clearly a koyach hanefesh. So there's no bodily way of explaining what sechel is. Rotzen is a koyach hanefesh. This is why the Rebbe finds it necessary to contrast the two. For if seichel were a bodily experience, and nefesh is a neshamah experience, you don't have to. There's no need to contrast them. Do I have you guys with me?
This is the stress that there are oisius in seichel, but even in the seichel hapshata.
There are no oases. There are oases, but it's not nitvos beoasis. It cannot be nitvos. It cannot be expressed in oasis. That's a seichel mufshat. That is like it is a seichel almost purely neshamah.
Which makes it almost similar, so to speak.
You would think that this is like the rotzen. This is why we're beginning all the time to contrast seichel to rotzen. Yes, sir.
Is it too early of a question to ask what defines the contrast between sechel and ratzon that you spoke about?
What is the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we spoke about today. But now I want to bring you to speak to a clarity. So we started from a step back. To point out that from our perspective, this whole question is moot. Who will ever confuse seichel and rotzen? Therefore, if there is a necessity to clarify the difference, then it behooves us to think into what kind of seichel are we talking about. This is not the seichel that I in my experience. And that kind of brings us to recognize that yes, indeed, we're talking about a seichel that is a neshamah level seichel. The seichel that is true only because I'm alive and sensitive. This table is 4 feet wide. It's not 4 feet wide to a bar sechel and 2 feet wide to a non-bar sechel. It's 4 feet wide to a cat. There's a difference. You're talking about no, this is seichel which is known and recognized only to a bar seichel, and even amongst human beings, as we point out. A human being can also be insensitive to it, and it comes back with an idiotic view of things, because it's not sensitive to seichel element. Because if we should limit our seichel, we should command our brain, our seichel, to limit itself to the physical view, then we are actually on that level. We're not sensitive. We don't have neshamah seichel. We don't have the human gift that God gave to the human being. Coming back, we all have it, Baruch Hashem, but we have to know to open to it and to appreciate it. Okay, so coming back, so therefore, we are contrasting seichel to rotzen. Rotzen is clearly present only in a living soul. You can't speak about the table having the rotzen. And as we pointed out in the story of the Rebbe asking, Rebbe asks a story, and everybody knows what it is. He asked, why do you eat? Why do you eat? And Lahav the Goy said, I eat so that I would live. And he pointed out that this answer, I eat so that I would live, is already a human level answer. Because recognizing that the significance of life, not the significance of I'm hungry, I don't want to be hungry, I don't want to have the pangs of hunger. But there is something purely positive, I want to live. Live. It's already a human thing. This is present in our seichel. We are aware of it in our seichel. We are aware of it in our seichel. But our seichel gets that information from the rotzen. It isn't the seichel that compels, you should want to live. It doesn't want that way. The rotzen says I want to live. And seichel recognizes it. So seichel and rotzen are on two different levels. Although, as we pointed out, there are similarities there. Rotzen is a neshamah manifestation. Rotzen can only be in a living and an intelligent presence. And seichel is in a living and intelligent presence. But at two different levels. In simple terms, the difference between rotzen and seichel is Sechel is called a koyach, which means it has a specific function, what it can accomplish. Rotzain is simply the manifestation of the presence of a soul. It's not a koyach. It's called koyach makifi. Koyach makifi means a koyach that represents the presence of the soul, not a koyach that represents some kind of an activity, or an action. This is what the Rebbe is explaining. That the koiches are klulim benefesh. The nefesh allows for koiches. Because koiches also have ruchnis, also have a life in them. On different level than rotzen. Okay, our time is up. Just want to remind us. I mean, we demonstrated this in all kinds of different ways. When a human being swings a hammer, and a mechanical arm swings a hammer, it's a different swing. It's exactly the same function, some accomplishment. As a matter of fact, the mechanical arm accomplishes it much better than the human hand. But it's a different deed. It's a different deed. This is why one of the reasons that the our Rabbeim were insistent that the matzah should be made by hand, not by machine. Machine matzah is tastier, is better, is more uniform. And from Kasha's perspective, also the Rabbonim argue that it could be more kosher than hand matzah because it's so quick, it's so uniform, so well controllable. And yet the Frierdiker says, no, hand matzah is what I want. Hand matzah is never going to be as uniform as machine matzah. Never in a million years. This is a living matzah. Okay? Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is it for tonight. So, Baruch Hashem, we decided to go to the Beis. Now we can continue.
Can I ask my
Yeah.